55 years after its world debut, back in 1967, the latest incarnation of the Norton Commando is about to hit the dealerships. And while the sales figures over its first decade hit 55,000, a figure unlikely to be matched nowadays, the two variants Sport and Café Racer feature a re-engineered 961cc parallel twin motor, top spec components, and a superb level of finish in a bid to recapture nostalgia. Over 1/3 of the engine parts have been upgraded with a brief to increase the quality of finish, and while the overall silhouette of the bike might be near enough identical to the outgoing version, it's the invisible work deep within that has made the 2023 version of Norton's icon work and work well. The frame, gear mechanism, fuel tank, camshafts, cam chains, crankcase, engine calibration are all upgraded, plus the material advances with, for example, aerospace level brushed billet aluminium top clamps, which are hand welded. The orchestral resonance from the pair of low and sexy smooth exhausts that halt either side of the rear axle still bellows strongly. The vibrations shake the number plate, and the natural nuances of an internal combustion engine tinker with your senses. It's a real flashback. That said, Norton has been a little naughty by not complying with Euro 5 emission regulations, and instead type approving the new Commando under SVA government rules aimed at those building bikes in their sheds which have no restriction on overall Colorado, hydrocarbons or NOx, which is the stuff that mainstream manufacturers have to comply with. Nevertheless, the 961cc air and oil-cooled parallel twin rumbles to a redline of 7,500 revolutions per minute, wheezily towards the top end as the peak torque figure of 81 nyutonmeter 59 7-pound-feet strikes at 6,300 revolutions per minute, while a peak power figure of 76.8 bhp at 57.3 newtonmeter is only achieved 250 revolutions per minute short of that red line. The motor is most at home in the mid-range, and away from the very short first and second gears, used only to gain momentum. Third is where anything happens, and that can be achieved easily by 25 miles per hour. It's a shame that first and second are almost identical, because there are only 5 gears to play with, and that makes overtaking more of a challenge that requires a little planning. On the plus side, dropping down and using the very neat throttle connection to drive the power through gives you another chance to soak in the aural pleasures residing from that superb rattly howl. A modern luxury motorcycle costing the thick end of 17 grand really ought to ride and steer well, which is all well and good because the Commando comes with manually adjustable Öland suspension front and rear, adjustable for preload, compression, and rebound damping. As I sauntered from Marlborough towards Newbury, I catch my shadow on the road and see the suspension working in real time as the wheels appeared to be bobbing up and down as I glided along the A4. The settings on which the bike had been handed to me for this ride were well suited to the road conditions, with no adjustment required. It held the corners well, though its mass wouldn't be ideally suited for more serious backroad scratching. Under heavier braking and even off the brakes and through the rebound phase, the Commando provided a sumptuous ride, predictable in the turn courtesy of a set of grippy Dunlop Sport Max tires adorning the 17-inch polished aluminium rims. Though if I were being picky, and that is my profession after all, I'd suggest a slightly softer saddle. Neither too eager nor too languid, its twin-disc Brembo brake setup has a span-adjustable lever which provides enough of a comfortable squeeze to slow you, as you'd expect to be slowed on such a graceful yet 230 kilograms motorcycle. While I didn't test the abs, I did deliberately jolt the front brake to check the bike's reaction, and other than a sturdy fork compression, the stopping power was more than acceptable. The bike's 15-liter tank sits high and wide, deliberately so to ensure plenty of legroom and a narrow stance. Look at the bike from above, and the waist where saddle meets fuel tank is barely a glove's length across. The riding position of the Café Racer is more suited to hip-to-knee position, though I found it hideously uncomfortable on my neck and forearms. Though once our kind guide rider took my backpack, the situation cleared and I could ride the CR how it was supposed to. Lock-to-lock on both models is poor, so be careful when shuffling the bike around tight spaces or when riding at low speed in town or car parks. Naturally, the layout of the SP model is suited to a more comfortable ride, though even here and at 6 feet tall, I was still feeling a little stretch in my arms. I couldn't quite fit my legs under the tank, nor into the indents, so they sort of hung there on the outskirts of this narrow stunner. The saddle is firm and has enough length to slide forwards or backwards. On the introductory ride, the longest single session was no more than 25 miles, so I can't comment on comfort over longer distance. A hearty portion of any bike's mass is in the engine, and the Norton's twin sits low in the frame with the cylinders canted forward slightly. Vibrations through the touch points of foot pegs, handlebars, and seat were noticeable and favorable. They just fit with the style and character.